Good morning, everyone. This is going to be a bit of a nerdy talk. I hope you sign up for this. I'm going to talk about making Bitcoin better money, and in particular, building better Bitcoin bridges, because that is like the essential ingredient to make Bitcoin more scalable and more private. First of all, why BitVM? Well, I already said we want to bridge Bitcoin to other systems. I cannot see my slides here. Can I? I should see them here, but they're like very small. So we want to bridge Bitcoin to other systems because layer one doesn't scale. I guess we all know that. And it would be great if we could bridge Bitcoin to like sidechains, to rollups, to stuff like ZK coins. And that would enable rapid innovation, it would enable cheap experimentation, and the things I'm most interested in about is scalability and privacy, because I'm in it for the money. I want Bitcoin to be usable as money by everyone. That's also why I'm very excited about Square launching Bitcoin payment terminals for like 4 million merchants in the US. And I think that's the most important thing about Bitcoin. Numbers go up, great, but Bitcoin should be money. That's the most important thing. And that's why I'm so excited to build bridges, because bridges, they allow us to scale Bitcoin. And the current state of the art, or like the previous state of the art, it was a bit poor. We had like multisig bridges, and multisigs are like a bit lame because it's the Trust Me Bro model. And as we all know, Bitcoin is about cutting out intermediaries. And multisig bridges are pretty much the opposite of that. And there were also over-collateralized bridges that are slightly better, but they are still very expensive and don't work very well in practice. So the big question was, how do we build better bridges to build better second layers? And in particular, how do we do that without any consensus upgrades? Because consensus upgrades are super hard in Bitcoin because it's super hard to get everyone together to actually upgrade Bitcoin. And the rough problem that we are trying to solve is like we have Bitcoin and then some side system, for example, a sidechain or a rollup, and we want to bridge Bitcoin from, we want to bridge BTC from, where's the, it doesn't matter. We want to bridge BTC from Bitcoin to the side system, and then eventually, like after it's circulated in the side system, we want to bridge it back from the side system to Bitcoin. And the upper part is actually quite easy. You just send the money to some address. But the hard problem is to get it back again at some point. Because here at this point, you have to prove to the main chain that you're actually entitled to take money out of the bridge. And this is the hard problem that we are trying to solve. And the high-level solution is actually quite simple. Just use SNARKs. SNARKs are this amazing cryptographic compression technique that allows you to compress essentially infinite amounts of data into a very small, succinct proof. And this proof can be written into the Bitcoin blockchain, and that convinces the main chain that you are actually allowed to take money out of the bridge. So that's kind of like the solution, but not quite, because in practice, the problem is, how do we verify a SNARK in Bitcoin? And Bitcoin's scripting language is not very expressive. Actually, Satoshi kind of like crippled it one day. He got very paranoid when he found a bug in Bitcoin, or in Bitcoin script. And then he essentially deactivated all of the good opcodes, and that's why it's very hard to verify a SNARK in Bitcoin. But there is a solution, and the solution is BitVM. That's the main purpose of BitVM. BitVM allows us to enable to verify SNARKs on Bitcoin, and verifying SNARKs enables us to build very good bridges. And just to give you an overview of like the rough history of BitVM, it does optimistic SNARK verification, so it cannot like actually verify a SNARK, but it can falsify wrong SNARKs. And being able to disprove a wrong SNARK is as good as being able to actually verify a SNARK. And that is efficient enough to actually do it on Bitcoin. We have these like sets of operators, and they process withdrawals, and then there are challengers, and they slash malicious operators. If any operator is lying, then one of the challengers will slash them. And the rough security assumptions are if at least one of these operators is live, then the bridge is live. That means everyone will eventually get their money back. And if one of these challengers is honest, then the bridge is honest. So nobody will lose their money. And that improves over the previous state of the art to like a 1 of n assumption instead of a t of n. And since n can be very large, like on the order of like hundreds of people, if just 1 in 100 is honest, then the bridge is safe and live. Previously, we had built BitVM2 and the so-called BitVM Alliance, which is like a consortium of 9 companies that want to build second layers on Bitcoin. They've been working on that for about a year, and we completed the first implementation in March. And then we also completed a security audit, and the first BitVM2-based L2s are going to launch within the next month, hopefully. However, there was a problem with BitVM2 because the capital costs were quite high. And I'm German, so I have like that natural urge of optimizing things. So we thought about how to make it better and how to get around these high capital costs and the little bit of clunkiness that BitVM2 had. And then eventually we came up with BitVM3, which is based on garbled circuits. And garbled circuits is essentially a very magical cryptographic technique on top of SNARKs that enables very efficient SNARK verification on Bitcoin. And they appeared for the first time in Bitcoin around like 2021 when they were applied to discrete log contracts and scriptless scripts. Maybe you've heard of them. And then Jeremy Rubin, he published in April 25 a paper called Delbreak, where he said, hey, well, you can actually optimize BitVM with that. And then he garbled circuit pilled me at the MIT Bitcoin Expo, which was quite funny because like we had just completed our implementation for BitVM2, and then he came to me, and like within about 3 sentences, it became clear that our entire work was obsolete now because this approach is like just vastly better. And then I garbled circuit pilled the BitVM Alliance, and then it turned out that Liam Egan had already worked on garbled circuits in parallel. And then like the research around garbled circuits exploded very quickly because all of these companies in parallel explored all kinds of interesting directions. And then eventually Liam Egan, he came up with a very, very efficient scheme that essentially solves this problem very elegantly and very efficiently. And a fun fact is that this was already possible in 2017. It just took us 8 years to discover that this is actually possible, and we had to take like that detour to like first build that monster BitVM2 to then think about how to make it more efficient. And now, after about like 8 years, we figured out how to do it efficiently. Also, that makes you wonder like what other gems are like sleeping there somewhere that nobody has discovered yet. The rough idea how to upgrade from BitVM2 to BitVM3 is BitVM bridges in general, they consist of 2 parts. Like on the one hand, we have that SNARK verifier, and on the other hand, there is the bridge contract. And the bridge contract essentially stays the same, but garbled circuits make the SNARK verifier vastly more efficient. So you just have like a drop-in replacement for the SNARK verifier, but the rest of the contract that is expressed in like a graph of transactions essentially stays the same. Yeah, so the rough formula is take your BitVM2 bridge, add a garbled circuit SNARK verifier, and you get BitVM3. And my animation seems to be a little bit broken. However, here's the comparison. Like in BitVM2, here you see the clunkiness. Like the key transactions are the so-called assert transaction and a disprove transaction. Assert transaction is where like the operator commits to a proof on chain, and the disprove transaction is which allows a challenger to disprove a faulty proof. And it used to be 2 megabytes. And the disprove transaction used to be 4 megabytes. So in total, you had to be able to pay for 6 megabytes of on-chain space. That is, of course, very expensive. You don't have to pay that every time. You only have to pay that in case of a dispute. But you have to be able to pay for that. And you have to put up a collateral to like essentially pay the other party to disprove you if you are lying, to align the incentives. And now with BitVM3, we brought the assert transaction down to 8 kilobytes. and the disprove transaction down to 200 bytes. So in total, we have like roughly 8 kilobytes of on-chain storage that we now need, which is on the order of 1,000x improvement almost. And it's vastly more efficient. It's pretty impressive that this is actually possible. And the rough idea how that works is an idea called conditional disclosure of secrets. So I want to disclose a secret under a certain condition. So during setup, we agree on some kind of black box. That's our garbled circuit, but for now, let's just picture it as a black box. And you can feed a SNARK proof in there and essentially evaluate the SNARK proof in that black box. And if it's incorrect, then this black box reveals a secret. And that means knowledge of that secret is a fraud proof. That secret is revealed exactly if the operator provides an invalid SNARK. And only if the operator provides an invalid SNARK, then this secret is revealed to the watchtower. And if the SNARK is correct, then nothing is revealed. So knowledge of that secret is a fraud proof, and I can easily prove to the chain that I know that secret just by revealing a hash pre-image essentially. During setup we agree on that black box. Then we have in that assert transaction the operator reveals a SNARK proof on chain, and then challengers can evaluate that and feed it into that black box. And if that SNARK is incorrect, a secret is revealed. And knowledge of that secret is the fraud proof. The key idea how a garbled circuit works, I'm not sure how nerdy you guys are. I actually thought I would be on the open source stage where people love to be very nerdy. This is a truth table. It means A and B equals C. So if A is true and B is true, then C is true. And the truth values are represented by zeros and ones. That's like how computers work on a very low level. And how we do it is essentially we take that truth table and we replace the truth values, the ones and zeros, with labels. Where there was a 0 in the A column, there is now A0, and where there was a 1, there is A1 now. And these secrets are known only to the operator in the beginning. And what we want to express is that if you learn any assertion of any row, like for example, I want to set A to 0 and B to 1, then I would reveal to you A0 and B1, and then you should learn C0. But you should not learn C1. You should only learn C0. And the way we are doing that is just by using an encryption scheme. So essentially, we are encrypting each row. Each output value, so each value of C is encrypted with the input values. So for example, in the first row, we encrypt C0 with A0 and B0. In the second row, we encrypt C0 with A0 and B1. In the third row, A1 and B0 encrypt C0, and so on. And if you learn any assertion, like for example, you learn A0 and B1, then you can decrypt C0, but you cannot decrypt C1. You can only decrypt C0. And this is essentially the heart of garbled circuits, because once we know how to build, how to garble a single gate, we can compose these gates into large circuits and essentially express any function. It should be such that given a particular set of input labels, they reveal a particular output label. If you learn a SNARK, then you learn either true or false. And since we can express any kind of function, we of course can express a SNARK verifier circuit. And that has just roughly the signature. You have a verify function, you can feed a proof in there, and it reveals true or false. And that's going to be one of two labels. And if you learn the false label, then you have a fraud proof. The false label represents the fraud proof. The challenges and trade-offs. Well, first of all, if we just represent a SNARK verifier naively in binary gates, we end up with on the order of 10 billion gates for a cross-16 proof. That's, of course, a lot of gates. And that leads to a lot of off-chain costs because we have to build like this black box, and during setup we have to communicate that black box, and also you have to verify that this thing is actually correct, and so you have to prove to the counterparty that this is actually correctly encrypted, and that can be quite expensive actually. Yeah, so roughly the things are like, how large is the circuit, how long does it take to build the circuit, how long does it take to prove the circuit. And then on the other hand, there are trade-offs, like how much on-chain cost am I willing to pay? Like, if you're willing to pay more on-chain costs, you can have smaller circuits, or like you can have faster proving time. And another dimension is like you can have more aggressive security assumptions. Yeah, you can use more fancy cryptography, a bit more experimental cryptography, and that allows you to compress things. And in theory, you could also use trusted computing. So you send the data to like a data center with like trusted execution environments, and they could compute vastly faster than you can do it on your own computer. But of course, it creates trust assumptions as you have to send your data to a data center in the first place. And the solutions, like roughly the solution space, is there's the classical so-called YAO style scheme with cut and choose. It's been around for like 30 years or something. It's pretty conservative from a cryptographic point of view, but it's also very inefficient in terms of off-chain costs. So you end up with a circuit of the size, let's say, 50 gigabytes or something. Then there's Jeremy Rubin's scheme, which makes a bit different trade-off because it has way more on-chain costs, but the off-chain costs are cheaper. There are a couple others, but then there is in particular the scheme by Liam Egan, which is just a 20 megabyte circuit. So the off-chain costs become essentially negligible. And this is the state of the art now, and this is what I'm personally most excited about right now. But there's always ongoing research. People are trying to come up with more efficient schemes. And yeah, we haven't found the bottom yet. Outlook and summary. Well, BitVM3 bridge contracts still have the same drawbacks as BitVM2 because they need covenants. They need to emulate covenants. I'm not sure if you know what covenants are. Unfortunately, I don't have quite the time to explain it here. But what they would give us, or like what they currently, the drawback is that they introduced that one-of-n safety assumption. If we had covenants in Bitcoin, we would have unconditional safety. So nobody could steal from the bridge, even if all the operators and all, like if everyone would be malicious, you still cannot steal from the bridge. One solution would be opctv. Maybe you've heard of that. However, it's a little bit hacky. The clean solution would be optx hash or optx or the introspection opcodes as we have them on Liquid. There's another proposal called optemplate hash, and unfortunately, that doesn't help us at all. And in the long term, we also would love to have some opcodes like big int arithmetic or great script restoration, because that would allow us to even get rid of the operators as well. Summary. So BitVM enables better Bitcoin bridges, in particular to L2s to enable better scalability and better privacy. BitVM2 is production ready. L2s are launching soon. BitVM3 is based on garbled circuits, and that's the absolute future. It's vastly better than BitVM2, like on the order of 1000x improvement in on-chain cost. However, the challenges are still to tame the off-chain costs. The Amigan scheme is probably a very good solution for that. And many different directions are getting explored in parallel currently. And there's lots of exciting research going on, and it's a very vivid area of research in Bitcoin. And I'm very excited to be part of that. Thank you.